Police are busting a growing number of gangs involved in kidnappings and extortion. But as they do so, they also face possible corruption and ties to criminals within their own ranks. Taiwan is feeling the pinch. Real wages have fallen for the first time in 9 years. Ahead of Taiwan's local elections later this month, we take a look at what makes the occasion uniquely Taiwanese. And embarking on an artistic journey, Eastern Taiwan's Taitung hosts its 5th Fringe Festival. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. We start with a police investigation into gangs involved in kidnappings and extortion. The Interior Minister says there's a plan to uncover and dismantle the gangs. But as police make new busts, they also face allegations of corruption and ties to criminals within their own ranks. John Van Trieste has this report.
This is one of 32 suspected gang members arrested over the past few weeks in a crackdown on extortion rings. These groups are known to have kidnapped dozens, stealing their money and laundering it. Some of them tortured their captives, killing at least 3 of their victims. Police say they keep uncovering new groups. But according to the Interior Minister, they are also revealing possible ties between gangs and the police.
有关警大校长的部分，那政风处也正在详细调查中。调查结束会给我一个报告，那我会根据这个报告，那再呈报行政院。
Recently found footage from 2017 shows Chen Zhou-wen, the head of Taiwan's top police academy, meeting with gangsters. At the time, he was assistant head of Taiwan's police agency. Chen says he was gathering intelligence. The police's strategy to tackle the extortion gangs includes taking down more than 1,000 suspicious job ads. It's a favored tactic to kidnap job seekers. And they're inspecting hotels and apartment buildings for people who may be held there against their will.
第三方警政像旅馆的这些，他们有义务要来通知警方，不然我们可以处罚等等。但是有一些，它并不是第三方警政的这个范围里面的话，我们会建立，譬如说大楼的管理员保全的这一些主管机关是我们警政署，我们从这里跟他们做相关的合作。
The Interior Minister says police are determined to root out extortion gangs, cut off their cash flows, and seize stolen money. But the push to wipe out these gangs is now raising questions about corruption within the police force. Kama Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
8 people have been found guilty of crimes ranging from negligent homicide to illegal procurement over the Taroko Express train crash that killed 49 people in eastern Taiwan last year. The heaviest punishment was handed down by the Hualien District Court to Taiwan Railways Administration worker Pan Tang-yi, who was sentenced to almost 9 years in prison for negligent homicide and forging documents. The Taroko crash was Taiwan's deadliest rail accident in 70 years. It happened after a truck rolled onto the track from a nearby construction site completing work contracted by Taiwan's state-run Railways Administration. The investigation into the accident raised serious questions about safety oversight on the country's railways. And victims' families think the punishments don't go far enough.
49条人命等于他其实才1条人命是1个多月。我相信不止我们不能接受啊，应该有很多人都不能接受。
Taiwan's Air Force is wrapping up the last day of its Tianlong drills. Hundreds of anti-air rounds were fired as the military practiced fighting off an air attack during a simulated enemy invasion. The drills featured a variety of Taiwan's warplanes defending an airbase. The annual exercises were originally scheduled for last week, but were postponed due to bad weather. Wages in Taiwan have risen, but prices have shot up even faster. That means for the first time in 9 years, Taiwanese workers' salaries are worth less than they were a year ago. Stash Butler has more.
From restaurant employees to high-tech engineers, Taiwan's workers are feeling the financial pinch. For the first time in nearly a decade, the country's top statistics agency says wages have fallen after accounting for inflation. On paper, the average worker's salary rose in 2022 to about $17,000 a year. But rising prices have, in effect, pushed wages down to about 0.1% lower in value than in 2021. Officials say this has happened for several reasons.
今年有遇到就是有疫情的影响，还有一些外在的，比如说俄乌战争啊，还有一些全球的外在环境的影响所造成的。
But this year's slight drop is part of a wider trend.
Taiwan has been one of the worst performing countries in terms of improving wages in the last couple of decades.
After adjusting for inflation, real average salaries in Taiwan have barely changed in 20 years. Corporate headhunter Alan McIver says this has affected the country's ability to both attract and retain its workforce talent.
The general feeling is that the Taipei wages are okay, they're at an average level, but if you're comparing them to places like Shanghai or Singapore, Tokyo, Seoul, they're about half. Taiwanese loses a lot of its best workers because wages in Singapore and Shanghai, for example, are a lot higher. Well, there's a lot of brain drain here.
For UBI Taiwan's chair Tyler Prohaska, all that makes the news of this year's negative wage growth much less of a shock.
The fact that it's actually fallen into negative territory is not that surprising because it's effectively already been there for the last 2 decades.
The reasons for Taiwan's slow wage growth are complex and not entirely in the country's control. But experts say as long as they persist, Taiwan's top talent will look elsewhere to get a raise. Karma Xu and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
One of Taiwan's major semiconductor firms saw a massive drop in sales in October. MediaTek sales landed at $1 billion last month. That's a 41% drop from September, when the company marked its second highest monthly sales ever. October's plunge was the company's lowest grossing month since February 2021. The company says that its performance decline is due to the global economic downturn. Despite the dip, MediaTek sales for 2022 are still up nearly 18% since last year. iPhone maker Foxconn says production at one of its factories should return to normal levels soon. Operations at one of its biggest plants were disrupted due to a COVID outbreak and employees fleeing an ensuing lockdown. It comes as Reuters reports that the company plans to quadruple the workforce at its iPhone factory in India over the next 2 years. As Rick Liao reports, the Taiwanese tech giant has lowered its profit forecast for this quarter.
Images of life inside the world's largest iPhone factory based in central China. Taiwanese owner Foxconn is struggling to maintain production during a COVID lockdown. These pictures were released by the tech company. 200,000 people usually work at the Zhengzhou plant in Henan province, but a COVID outbreak, a snap lockdown, and reports of food and medical shortages sent workers fleeing the complex. Experts now warn it could disrupt global iPhone supply as demand for tech devices spikes ahead of the holiday season.
荷兰省政府也已经明确地表示，他们会全力地来支持富士康，以最快的速度来扑灭疫情。我们会与政府以及客户通力的合作，在最短的时间内，努力地回到正常的产能。
Foxconn is already taking a hit. This week, it downgraded its profit forecast for this quarter.
原先对第四季的看法是审慎乐观，但因为疫情影响郑州厂区的营运，所以我们前几天下调了内部对第四季的展望。
Companies and people across China are facing more uncertainty as COVID cases rise. With the government clinging to its zero COVID policy, local authorities are empowered to act quickly to quell infections, including enforcing sudden and long-lasting lockdowns, often at the expense of the local economy.
This lockdown is one of the latest evidence to demonstrate that the zero COVID policy in China is not sustainable in the long run. Right? The disruption, it protects human life, but it comes with ultra high economic costs. So from Foxconn or Apple Computer's perspective, they are already talking about reducing its presence in China.
At present, Foxconn has no choice but to keep its Zhengzhou plant running in line with China's COVID controls. It's offering cash bonuses and other incentives to find workers and keep the phones coming off the production line.
原来的这个离场的一些员工来说，那这样子的一个加薪或者是津贴，是不是能够让他们顺利的回到厂区？我想这个仍然有待观察。
Global companies like Foxconn and Apple operating in China are now paying the price for COVID-0. And China's position as the factory of the world is looking more precarious than ever. Andy Xue and Rick Liao for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus's app has been cut from Apple's App Store in China for including what the platform calls illegal content. The App Store notified TaiwanPlus of the removal on Thursday. It says TaiwanPlus violated the App Store's guidelines by including what it says is content that's illegal in China. It's unclear what content it was referring to. TaiwanPlus is aware that the app has been blocked. The organization's website and app are still available in the rest of the world. A man was arrested Thursday night in northern Taiwan's Taoyuan for waving a fake gun at a political campaign event. Police say the man appeared suspicious and pulled out the toy firearm when officers approached him. The incident happened before a rally for ruling Democratic Progressive Party mayoral candidate Zheng Yunpeng. President Tsai Ing-wen was also at the event, but the arrest happened before she arrived. Police are investigating the man's motive. He has so far been charged with endangering public safety. Taiwan's local elections are just a few weeks away, and if you've never seen a Taiwanese election before, you're in for a surprise. Sure, you'll see campaign rallies, speeches, and banners just like anywhere else, but there are some features that are uniquely made in Taiwan. John Van Trieste has more.
Trucks ply the streets of the southern city of Kaohsiung, playing music and messages over a loudspeaker. You could be forgiven for thinking they're selling something, because, in a way, they are. It's election season in Taiwan, and this is how parties promote their candidates and get their ideas across. Another thing that makes these elections especially Taiwanese is that many voters have to travel across the country to cast their ballots. Taiwan politics scholar Karis Templeman explains why you have to vote in the place where your household is registered.
That's a very old system that goes back to the Japanese colonial era, and it's a holdover until the present. Until you create a new household by moving out of your parents' house, and if you do that, you potentially there are some tax consequences that come with that. And so that means that a lot of kids who go off to college, a lot of young people who are perhaps renting in one city far from where their family is, are disincentivized to register their household at that new location.
So that's why many people have to travel for Election Day. But the good news, it also means everyone is automatically registered to vote. But what if you live overseas? Does Taiwan have absentee ballots? Unfortunately, no.
The biggest single issue is there are a ton of overseas voters in mainland China. And you can imagine the kind of controversy it might cause if a bunch of absentee ballots came in the mail to Taiwan after the election and changed the results of an election.
Another uniquely Taiwanese rule, in the last 10 days before the election, there's a ban on new opinion polls, or even talking about polling. And on election day, the candidates, even sitting presidents, have to watch what they say, as further campaigning is now banned.
In fact, there's an infamous case from 2012 where Ma Ying-jeou was running for re-election. He posted on his Facebook, his personal Facebook page, a reminder to tell people to go out and vote for the KMT. And that violated the CEC rule about campaigning on election day. And so the Ma campaign had to pay a large fine to the CEC because of that. So they do take that one very, very seriously.
Now, Taiwan may be known as a high-tech country, but when it comes to counting the ballots, it's very much what you might call old school. Harris Templeman says old-fashioned paper ballots help cut down on contested elections.
The vote count in Taiwan is also really distinct because it's done at the polling place. It's done right after the polls close. There's usually a period of about 5 minutes where they rearrange things. And then it's done in full view of anybody who wants to watch.
As you watch the results roll in on election night, look out for another special feature, the victory sign. It's not only to show which candidate has won, it's also become a symbol of Taiwan's young but enduring democracy. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
And stay tuned to TaiwanPlus over the next few weeks for more on the country's local elections ahead of polling day on November 26th. Coming up, Southeast Asian leaders are in Cambodia for a crucial summit. We learn what's on the agenda.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please make sure to download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are convening in Cambodia today. It's the start of a series of high-level summits that will be taking place in Southeast Asia this month. Ryan Kilpatrick has more.
It's summit season in Southeast Asia. Over the next 2 weeks, world leaders will converge on the region to attend 3 high-profile events. The first of these is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, which is convening in the Cambodian capital, Phnom Penh. Attendees are meeting to discuss the most pressing issues that are ongoing in Southeast Asia.
I think at the very top of the agenda will be Myanmar and how to address the ongoing crisis, civil war, and overall deteriorating situation in Myanmar.
Nearly 2 years since seizing power, Myanmar's military still has not consolidated its rule nationwide. As the humanitarian crisis worsens and atrocities mount, the country's neighbors increasingly agree the situation is untenable.
The consensus is basically something needs to be done about the Myanmar situation, that the deteriorating humanitarian situation, the rising criminality are not welcome.
Activists appreciate this consensus, but they say that actions against the Myanmar junta and its backers in China and Russia has so far fallen short.
The situation in the country is getting worse every day. We are doing everything we can to get rid of the military. The only thing lacking is the international support. What we learned from the war in Ukraine is that international community actually has the capacity to take action if they have the political will. So I think what's being lacking is the political will to take action. And we have, China and Russia is supporting the Burmese military, so we have common enemy as well.
The political chaos and economic slump wrought by the wars in both nearby Myanmar and distant Ukraine have hardened attitudes toward Moscow and Beijing. Even Cambodia, a staunch ally of China, has been cozying up to Kyiv. With US President Joe Biden en route to join the ASEAN summit, Washington is ready to take this chance to make inroads.
There is certainly more attention to Southeast Asia. One of Southeast Asia's concerns had been that the U.S. hadn't paid enough attention or given enough weight to the region. But now with Biden coming, certainly that shows an emphasis and a weight that is put on Southeast Asia. However, whether that weight translates into resources is a different matter.
The ASEAN summit will be immediately followed by the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation in Bangkok and then the G20 in Bali. As Southeast Asian leaders continue to welcome foreign dignitaries in coming weeks, observers worldwide will be looking to this region, which is increasingly coming under the global spotlight. Alex Chen and Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
The White House says it will brief Taiwan on the results of U.S. President Joe Biden's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Biden and China's leader will meet on Monday for their first in-person talks since Biden became president in 2021. On Wednesday, the U.S. president said he wants both sides to lay out their critical national interests and find ways to resolve disagreements. Biden says he's sure they will discuss Taiwan. After the meeting, senior U.S. official Jake Sullivan says he will reassure Taiwan's leaders of Washington's continued support.
We'll have the opportunity as an administration to brief Taiwan on the results of that meeting, and I'm confident that they will feel very secure and comfortable in the United States' position when it comes to our support for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and our commitment to the Taiwan Relations Act, which does commit the United States to ensuring we're providing the articles for Taiwan's defense.
The U.S. is warning European countries that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan would cause a massive global economic downturn. That's according to British newspaper The Financial Times. The report says the U.S. has shared research with the European Union that estimates an invasion of Taiwan would lead to $2.5 trillion of economic losses every year. Citing anonymous sources, the report also says the U.S. is using the research to make Europe aware of what it called the significant implications of a Chinese invasion. European attitudes toward Taiwan have warmed in recent years, with an increased number of EU member states and the UK sending delegations to visit the country. A World War II tunnel that had been sealed beneath Taipei is about to reveal its secrets. The tunnel dates back to the mid-20th century, towards the end of Japan's colonization of Taiwan. After the Second World War, it was used as a civil defense center. If China had invaded, it would have been turned into a command center as well. Though registered as a Taipei cultural property, it's never been open to the public. But now, for the next 2 days, 180 people will be allowed in on guided tours, experiencing a secret underground piece of Taipei's history. Have you ever seen a performance on a moving train or on the rooftop of a traditional market? Well, the Taitung Fringe Festival in eastern Taiwan is turning these everyday settings into stages. Wei Zhonglu takes us to where the magic is happening.
All aboard. Passengers scatter on a platform, getting ready for a train ride with a difference. Traveling from Pingdong in southern Taiwan to Taitung in the country's east, they will be treated to a special performance the entire way. Chow Chow Gloomy is about a conductor and 7 genies who are trapped on a locomotive. They are searching for a magic island to forget their troubles. The whole train is the stage for this show, with a setting that's designed to create a unique atmosphere.
搭配他们整个的剧情就感觉蛮身临其境。
因为我们没有搭过蓝米姐友号，就想说搭车，然后顺便看表演这样子。我也是第一次看这一种类型的表演。
我觉得就是4D 吧，就是你真的在那个环境里面，跟在电影院完全不一样。在无聊的
This is all part of the Taitung Fringe Festival, Eastern Taiwan's largest event celebrating the creative arts. Organizers chose this old train as the set, blending it with specially designed visuals and sound effects.
那列车它会经过很多景色、隧道等等的，所以我们把这样的时间感完完整整的融入在我们的剧本到排练的那些戏的过程里面，刚好借由这个象征，很像是我们人跟自然、人跟环境的一种尊重的感觉，就是我们了解他们的时间，了解他们大概是怎么样运行在我们的生活旁边，那我们如何融进去，做我们想做的事情，同时又不会有冲突。
表演正式开始哦。
Outside Taidung's Central Market, performers from the Circus Gate are inviting audiences to join in with their upcoming show. Viewers are amazed by the skills on display and how the artists work off their surroundings.
我那时候就在想，市场如果可以演马戏表演，会不会很冲撞啊？这就是台东市生活的声音，然后你会对这一切所有的感官都被打开。对，这件事情是我还蛮希望让 让观众去感觉到的。
The main stage goes to the rooftop of the market, where even local vendors seldom go. Circus Gate hopes these performances can become a way for people to rethink the purpose and meaning of community spaces.
也是在做一种艺术与城市之间交流跟沟通一个很重要的管道。我们希望，对啊，如果艺术可以发生在生活之间，然后可以透过艺术来让我们对于这个市场的环境有更进一步的讨论。那这除了表演之外，我觉得它还有一个更深层的含义。
This year marks the 5th outing of the Taitung Fringe Festival. The local government is hoping that performances such as these can make use of one of the area's best assets, its natural environment.
用这样的很亲近自然，然后很贴近观众的方式，所以我们打造了台东艺穗节，利用环境，然后可以跟观众很亲近的、很近距离的表演。哦，那确实也在这几年在国内掀起了一些小波潮，这样子。
The Taitung Fringe Festival runs to the end of November, with a variety of performances scheduled every weekend until then. Rachel Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally today, we leave you with images of recreated traditional Cambodian masks made for the ASEAN Summit. Hey, didn't we just talk about that? I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.